Hi everyone, so today I want to discuss Star Wars Episode 3, which came out on May 15th, 2005. So before I forget, something I want to mention, I meant to mention this in my Episode 2 video, I want to talk about R2-D2. And this is actually a great natural progression because in each episode, at least in the prequel trilogy, I have to double check for the original and sequel trilogy. I really do appreciate how R2-D2 he has a role to play in each installment. Not just both minor roles, but also major roles. For example, in episode 1, he helps to save the escaping ship that Padme and the crew were on. And episode 2, though I would argue more minor than major, he did assist Anakin and Padme with giving them company while they were in hiding from their assassin. And in addition to that, also, of course, with C-3PO, quote unquote, rescuing him from his predicaments. And then in episode 3, right off the bat, at the beginning, you have R2-D2 defending himself against a buzz droid. You have Obi-Wan and Anakin utilizing R2-D2's capabilities within the CIS flagship, or Grievous's, General Grievous's flagship. And and also some minor roles as well. But also, so what's the point of mentioning this? Just because growing up, R2-D2 is probably one of my favorite, or he was and still is my favorite Star Wars character. I did really enjoy Ben Kenobi, but I loved R2-D2 more. And then when the prequel trilogy came out, I did love Obi-Wan, but R2-D2 was still present. And episode 2, I did love Obi-Wan even more, but again, R2 was just constantly building upon this awesomeness that he established with the original trilogy and just keep building upon with the sequel trilogy, or the prequel trilogy, pardon me. And then of course with episode 3, that's when I really fell in love with Obi-Wan Kenobi's character, but R2-D2 has always been a fan favorite for myself. And I only mention that just because I don't want to be too negative, but when it comes to the sequel trilogy, that's really one of the biggest complaints that I have of it, is just the way that they handled R2-D2. Especially after watching the Clone Wars, that's really why I kind of want to harp on it. It's because even within the Clone Wars, R2-D2, he plays a really important role within that series. And I really appreciate that because R2-D2, despite being an astromech droid, I would argue he's one of the most important characters within the Star Wars mythos. Both, well, I'm not sure about Disney Star Wars, but for sure within Lucas Star Wars and also Legends Star Wars, which used to be Expanded Universe. Then of course with the Yosin Vong, they really focus on the idea of droids having individuality, droids as individuals and containing personalities. But we're here to talk about episode 3. So yeah, so I think that's something I really do appreciate. It's just out of love that the prequel trilogy, that the prequel trilogy offers to R2-D2. So now that that's out of the way, something that I really did appreciate even before watching Clone Wars is just the commonality between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I do believe that the actors did a good job. Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen did a good job of capturing just that banter between two brothers slash close brothers slash close friends. And of course, watching Clone Wars. So even before Clone Wars, I really did enjoy Episode 3. And in fact, I enjoyed all those prequel trilogies. But the Clone Wars, the Clone Wars, the animated series, really does help elevate certain characters within Episode 3. More specifically, Anakin, Obi-Wan, of course, R2-D2, even 3PO, Count Dooku. And I do want to do a review video for Tales of the Jedi, because that's another series that really helps to flesh out Count Dooku. I really like Count Dooku's character now, and in fact, he might be another fan favorite for myself. And then, of course, seeing the tragedy play out on screen, I think Lucas did a really good job of setting up the foundation of why Anakin makes the decisions and choices that he does. He was tormented by the visions that he had of his mother. And again, I had talked about this in the last video, but I think that would scar anyone if you missed seeing your parents, or even not your parents, but a significant other or a family relative that you're close with and you haven't seen them in a long time. And the last thing that they tell you is, I love, and they can't even finish the sentence. That's how Shmi Skywalker dies. She says, she stammers, I love, and can't complete the sentence. And of course, that's going to leave an emotional impact on Anakin Skywalker. And that's why when he starts having these visions of Padme's death, he wants to do his best to make sure that he prevents these visions from occurring. He knows now that these aren't just nightmares or dreams, but they are visions of the future. And unfortunately, the Jedi Council is not really offering much assistance for Anakin Skywalker, and that's where Palpatine comes in to emotionally manipulate Skywalker. And again, I did mention this, and I will be doing a thinking about video about Palpatine. Just the more one consumes of the external material away from the movies, the more one just can't help but really despise Palpatine as a character. With that being said, though, I think Palpatine's a really good example of just um, irredeemable character. I think right now it's really popular to have villains that are redeemable. Well, perfect case in example, Darth Vader, right? Even with series like Legend of Heroes, though, a lot of the villains in that video game series, the villains end up becoming allies um, by the end of the story. So I do, despite really despising Palpatine, I do appreciate this going all in with his, well, with this position as a Sith. So just being quote unquote evil, or well, yeah, evil, manipulative, selfish, and so forth. So I do really dislike Palpatine's character. They did a good job of giving an individual a reason why to dislike him. And then, of course, we have to discuss, despite this movie, when did it come out? In 2005, so I'm not the greatest with math, but I do think that's at least a decade ago now. I have to agree with all episode 1, 2, and 3. I think they really stand up well in terms of their CGI, and I think I did mention this with episode 1. That's something to be commented on just because there's a lot of properties out there like Rain of Fire. That's a movie about dragons. You could tell that that's utilizing CGI. And of course, between each episode, there's always that misconception that Lucas only utilized CGI, but he did also use some practical sets as well. Of course, a lot less, fewer than with the original trilogy, but still it is present. Um, and yeah, so episode 3, I think it does a really great job of concluding Anakin Skywalker's character, his character arc, is seeing him going from this doe-eyed, hopeful child who wants to bring peace and positivity to the galaxy, and just slowly transitioning into an individual who forsakes what he believed in and just ends up becoming used and doesn't realize that. I know a lot of people like to say that the Jedi Order used Anakin Skywalker, but I don't really agree with that sentiment just because Yoda and Mace Windu, with the Jedi Council, did not want to take Anakin. They were kind of forced into it because of Qui-Gon forcing Obi-Wan Kenobi to make that promise, or coercing Obi-Wan to make that promise. And because of that, I don't agree with that sentiment. I don't think the Jedi Council ever used Anakin. Definitely not in the same way that Watto, a slave owner, used Anakin, and the way that Palpatine, a Sith Lord with specific goals in mind, used Anakin. The Jedi Council was more like a reluctant, culpable force that or organization that accepted Anakin. Anywho, that's just a quick tangent. Maybe I'll do a thinking about video about that. And then, of course, seeing the showdown between Anakin and Darth Vader. It's always such a treat to see that, especially with the music. I haven't been mentioning this, but I don't think I need to mention it. But, of course, John Williams' score, it always does such a great job of setting the mood, the emotional context, and the weight. Yeah, John Williams, and I would argue, I don't think there's any piece of work that he does a poor job in. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, I know he does more beyond that, but that's the ones I could think of at the top of my head. Yeah, so Star Wars Episode 3. That's definitely from the prequel trilogy, the one that most people accept. I know the previous two, I ended it by saying if one wants to go in to watch these and they haven't seen it in a while, go in with an open mind, go in with the first perspective. I really don't think I need to give that warning with episode 3. The only thing that I would highly encourage everyone to do, if they have any desire to do so, is to definitely check out the Clone Wars. I would recommend to watch episode 3 just to get your opinions about it situated, and then to watch the Clone Wars, and everyone has time, Tales of the Jedi, and then to go back to episode 3 and just ask oneself, did these other properties, did they help elevate these characters? Is that fair? Can I like the characters I didn't like before that I was mature about? Is it fair that I like them now because they had the opportunity? When I say they, I mean Lucas and the individuals who worked on Star Wars. They had the opportunity to flesh out characters from a movie. And yeah, so I definitely also do want to do a review on the not the Clone Wars, but Clone Wars, the micro animated series. That might not be for a little while, just because I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bit Star Wars out. But yeah, thank you so much for listening and for watching. Before I end this, there's always something that I end up forgetting. I just want to make sure. Oh, the clones, of course. Episode 3 did such a fun and great job of establishing the clones as also tragic characters, and the Clone Wars did a great job of fleshing them out as well. But even before the Clone Wars, maybe I think the Rule of Cool, I always did like the clone troopers. It was sad seeing them. Order 66, that was an emotional moment. The older I get, the more I could see why people tear. I do choke up, and I do get misty eyed, but I've never cried for that scene. But the older I get, the more I see why some of my friends and family do for that scene, Order 66 scene. Anywho, and I do believe that's everything. Yes. I do have to say though, it's just so funny how Star Wars is meant to be as this lighthearted property, but watching the sequel trilogy, I mean the prequel trilogy, each one ends in such a loud, triumphant sound, like with episode 2 with Anakin getting married. But you know the underlying connotations of that, what's going to occur with episode 1 with Anakin becoming Obi-Wan's Padawan. But again, you know what's going to occur with that. And then with episode 3 with Owen Lars and excuse me, I believe her name starts with an O, but unfortunately I can't remember his girlfriend's name who will become his wife. Unfortunately, but the Lars, the way they stand looking out against the sunset holding Skywalker, it ends in a happy note. Well, the musical score ends in a happy note, but again, as a viewer, you know that their the characters' journeys are far from over. Right now, I'm just getting the chills just because knowing that Obi-Wan Kenobi's gonna have to go into, well, Obi-Wan and Yoda's gonna have to go into exile, but knowing that Qui-Gon Jinn's gonna train them as a Force ghost. You know, that's something else we have to discuss because I did read the novelization of Star Wars way back when, and I'm planning on rereading it. But as much as I do love Obi-Wan Kenobi's character, I do think the Obi-Wan Kenobi show just in the novelization, Qui-Gon, Yoda already has training for Obi-Wan for communicating with Qui-Gon. I just felt like Obi-Wan was stagnant for all those years that he was in the Tatooine desert. Anyway, that's neither for here nor for there. So if you haven't seen episode 3 in a while, I highly do recommend it. If you have seen it, I recommend watching it again with the Clone Wars. Let me know what you think of it. Do I recommend episode 3? Yeah, I do. It's an amazing series, an amazing end to a prequel trilogy. And I do have to say it with confidence. May the Force be with you, and may the Force be with us all. Take care, everyone, and have a great day. If you want to discuss, please do let me know via a message or in the comments below. Bye-bye.